Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cocoy AI, where I believe that AI and innovative technologies in the hands of creative minds can transform the world swiftly and with a greater impact for good. I'm Tiffany, and in this special episode, I had the privilege of being interviewed by Moises Nava. Moises is a purpose-driven senior global executive in product management. He wanted to talk to me about design thinking and how it shows up in the real world, specifically in the technology space. We're bringing this insightful conversation to this community. While I've embraced design thinking as a key strategy in my own work and career, our discussion sheds light on adaptability, being open and flexible to other ways to solve a problem. We explore how starting with different lenses, whether it be human desire, technical feasibility, or business viability, can each lead to powerful, effective solutions. So sit back, take some notes, and enjoy.
Awesome. As you know, what I'm interested to understand is how different product leaders do when they need to create whether a market case for a new idea or a product discovery or a validation or certain assumptions that are internally growing. That this particular part of the process, when the market is nascent and the product is new, trying to make sense of all that to come up with actionable insights that can go all the way up to C-level and down and actually create a movement with product development or make decisions that are useful to make decisions. That's always kind of like a fussy process. So how might we help product managers discover more impactful market insights when doing market research, and all in the context of product discovery? And product discovery, not just the new product per se, but also meaning, decisions on new pricing or a new feature into that particular product set. So that's the question. How might we help product managers discover more impactful, actionable marketing insights during that process? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can speak from experience of what's worked. I would say one of the best ways when doing any of this kind of discovery research is starting with the problem. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the job that you are trying to solve with a product? And that's the same for whether it's a digital product or a physical product. You should be making solutions that solve a problem, a need that's in the market. So getting very crisp on what those problems are, then looking into the market. Are there solutions that are available? Are those solutions good? Looking at all of those solutions, one of the biggest things that I like to do is look at analogous examples. So what are things that are maybe adjacent that solve similar problems in maybe a different industry? If you were trying to solve for fintech solution, and you could look into like Uber, or you could look into like the food industry, you would look at something completely different to see how maybe a more mature market has solved this issue before, and see how you can solve this with technology, either digitally or physically. And then once you have a bunch of different ideas, then you can test them. First you can talk to people that have this job that you're trying to solve for. See what their day looks like. See if this will fit into their life. There's a difference between solving for a consumer-based app versus an enterprise-based app. I think there's different needs and expectations for both of those. Enterprise tends to be more complicated on what is required and how flexible the solution should be, but less interested on like how well it looks or how easy it is to use. Because you're so complicated, there's the balance, right? But the consumer, it has to be super easy. It has to be super intuitive. You should be able to have it grow by the product, or what we call product-led growth. So you should be able to understand how to use the product over time in the product. Whereas with the more complicated solution, you might have a person that helps you get up to speed. The markets are changing. With AI becoming more prevalent, does AI take some of what I would call bad user experience out of the equation and replace it with some kind of prompting, right? The industry is changing significantly as we speak, but that's like part of the discovery phase is using everything in your power to find each and every solution. In my IDEO days, we had 7 rules of brainstorming, and one was bring all the ideas to the table. The wilder the ideas, the better. Everything is on the table at that point, because sometimes the most wild ideas will trigger another idea, can build off of that idea. That was another brainstorming rule, is building off the ideas of others in order to get to more solutions. Then eventually you have to get to a bunch of solutions that you think are pretty decent, and then test it again. So I think design thinking is this whole diverging and converging of ideas in order to get to the right solution. But specifically for the discovery section, I feel like everything's on the table. You can look to your market, to other markets, even globally, and you can iterate on that, or you can produce something new.
That's very insightful. Tell me the last time that you had to do this, as you think about on the process, I mean, in the context of your work, and how would you mention conceptually looks like when, like the last time you had to glean that insight or do that product discovery? Could you describe the process from the last time you did it?
It can look in many different ways, but I would say how you even get to the insights is after you have all of these ideas and you're testing it with people, you come up with a plan, right? So you have a bunch of hypotheses that you're going to test on your solutions. One being, does it fulfill the need? Does it fix that problem, right? And you have a series of questions to ask what their experience is with these ideas. So it's not even to the prototyping phase. This is before that, talking to a few people, and you can also do this in surveys. So if you wanted to have a quantitative result based off of a larger number, I think you put those two together. So you have a qualitative research married with this quantitative research, and some insights will emerge. That process is actually quite tedious and time consuming. I think this is another place where AI can really help synthesize down a large quantity of data into a summary that is easier to understand and give you some insights as to what people are saying. But then have all of these insights, then it's still up to you to design this product, right? You still have to do some of this prototyping and putting together a product that you think will solve that problem. So that could be starting with a story, like what is the user experience all the way through, building out, in the case of digital, building out a bunch of screens in order to show what that process will be. You could even like print it out and make a paper prototype and see how people might react to a specific product. It's usually not an entire product. So if it's an already established product, it'll be a feature for a product. But in the early stages, or if you're doing a startup, you do make the whole product and then you iterate on pieces of that product. And then you get to a point where, okay, you've tested this prototype a few times. You could do the digital, a more higher resolution version of that prototype. Figma is a really great tool to make those interactions work very quickly. And then you test it again and see how it goes. Then there's this part of the process where you take that solution that hopefully has solved the problems and kind of map it out to what are all of the features in this product in order to size each of those features. So there's this part of the product process. You take apart the awesome experience that solves a problem for the user, and you map it out to how hard or how easy each of these features will be to build and how important they are to solving that problem. And then the ones that are easy and impactful you do, and then it's a negotiation for the harder ones that are still impactful. And then you just don't do any of the other one. The ones that are really hard to implement but are a low value, you take those out of the experience, and then you build, and then you do the same thing again. You test the live product and see how that's resonating with the people that you want to use the product, and then you iterate on it. And then you kind of just do that whole cycle over and over again until you get a better and better product over time.
That's awesome. It's so great to know that in several industries, this idea of iteration as to learn, it's actually not permitted nor baked into the program, which, you know, this portion that you maintain is very interesting. So another question, and I have like 3 more. Well, I have like 17, but you mentioned Figma. So for tools, as you're trying to make sense of the insight and making some validation, maybe some cross-alignment, cross-functional alignment, how do you go about the use of tools to gather that data, to manage it, process it, whatever? And I know that I've been trying to get in the observation phase, but I want to be respectful of sometimes. I had a previous leader from Trailblazer. She's a consultant. She just showed me, like in Figma, she would run a workshop with the ideas to kind of either having the data and gathering an alignment on the story, you know, the user story or whatever. That was super helpful. From your experience, what tools do you use, and how do you use them so you get that insight at the end?
So I feel that the tools are mostly there to mimic processes that you have in real life. A lot of tools, for example, Miro is a tool that is trying to replace a whiteboard. I think it does a really good job, and it has really strong suits in some areas, and some areas I would still rather use a whiteboard. I am very tool agnostic. Whatever will help me collaborate the easiest with my team, whether they're together in one place or dispersed globally, I will use that tool, and I will learn how to use that tool in order to make that work. I think Figma has won out in, like, design has gone through so many different iterations, but Figma did what Google Suite did for Office, which is bringing in the collaboration aspect. So as an engineer, you can go in and you can see the hex codes for the colors. You can basically see how round the corners are. You can see all of the thing in code. Like it gives you all of the code that you need. If you're collaborating with other cross-functional people outside of product, they can come in and comment inside of the Figma. Your whole team can be working on one file at the same time, which is awesome, because in the past you would have so many multiple versions of the same file, and then there'll be file V1, V2, V3. Now it just kind of keeps track of all of the history, and you can go back in time a little bit and restore it to a specific version. In my early history, I think Adobe was the biggest one that everybody used. With Illustrator, I know they had their own XD, which was their version of Figma. I guess they're probably still doing XD now that the Figma merger is off the table. This is a very controversial thing to say as a person with a design background, but Canva has really powerful tools for collaboration. In the last quarter, I had everyone on my team for the final for the cat debate, edit the video in Canva. So all of us could do that at the same time in a very easy way. So very similar to an iMovie experience. Whereas someone like myself, I have the professional tools available. I use Premiere a lot. I have After Effects. But for something like that, to get something very professional and collaborate on the same product, I feel like Canva is a very good tool for that. I don't think designing in Canva is good. You still have to design it outside of Canva and bring it in. But editing a video, putting together different presentations, I think it's an excellent tool. So I think that's very controversial. Design people do not really want to use Canva for some reason. It's not really a design tool. It's like I would say it's a container for all of the things to go into. It only does a good enough job, but I think it's going to be better tomorrow, right? This is the worst it's going to be. Just like AI. I think right now you can do this much, but tomorrow it's like this much. So for me, I'll use whatever tools make collaborating easier and getting the job done faster, as fast as possible, really.
So you mentioned generative AI. Do you have any thoughts on, would it be, do you see an ideal scenario or current tools when people want to know about a certain market and they ask them ChatGPT and it brings all the insights into the response of that prompt? Like when people are exploring and a product manager is tasked to size and characterize a market, not just for the new product creation, but maybe for like just a whole new business, right? How do you see current tools that may prompt that? I mean, and I'm asking because you're mentioning the element of AI, which is obviously, of course, exponentially growing. How do you see that as its role into product discovery and market research and insight and leveraging data to learn about the market?
My philosophy is that it is the first place you go. It is the first place you go if you have the paid version. It is pretty good at finding that kind of market research or things that you might want to look into, even trying to find analogous companies or analogies to what you're trying to build. It's like a digital buddy that you can ask questions and it's never tired, right? So that you can do it if you wake up at 4:00 in the morning and have a question, you can ask, no big deal. It'll probably be faster because less people are asking it things at that time. I think right now, if you have that paid version of ChatGPT, you can make custom GPTs to do just about anything you want. You can make a custom GPT to help you with market research specifically in a specific industry even. It's not difficult to create custom GPTs that are super useful for daily tasks. Anything that you do repetitively, you could make a custom GPT to help you do that even faster. So I think you need to still know what questions to ask, because I think there's a difference between a layman and someone that's professional in a field. It's like if you're a writer, you could get much better results from ChatGPT on writing. If you are a designer, you could get much better results from the DALL-E 3 integration because you know the right questions and the right keywords to put into it to get better results. I'll give you the example. I see right now on LinkedIn, people using that ChatGPT DALL-E 3 a lot. They create this image and they're not prompting it in any way. It's the default DALL-E 3 look, which kind of looks like this bright plastic, pretty symmetrical looking image. It's very easy to point out from someone with a design eye. You can point out this one is ChatGPT without even looking at what it's talking about. And it adds extra things in the same way. But you can prompt it to not do that. And then for a coder, like someone that is an engineer, they could produce code and they can see where the problem areas are. They can ask it to write the code in a specific way or format it in a specific way that can be copied into a terminal or something that would produce better results. I would say it's like a first draft. So you have a first draft, and you as a professional can edit it to make it work. So I think that's the status of it today. What it will be tomorrow is anyone's guess. I think they're unlocking multimodal experiences where the LLM or the large language model is just the intermediary to translate your talk to whatever back end it's talking to. So if there's certain data sources, you're able to pull that with the large language model without having to know how to use some proprietary software, right? You're just talking to it to ask it for things. I can talk about AI for a very long time. So just like, that's something that is super fascinating to me. And I feel like it's changing the entire work industry. Some for the better, some maybe not so great, but I think it's happening. So whatever you do with it, I think it's in the product manager's best interest to figure out how to use it or understand how it's being used.
No, for sure. Product manager and AI. Always say AI will replace product managers. Product managers, the AI will replace product managers.
Yep.
Good deal. So one last question. Summarizing all this, as you see into this process, if you were to rank like 3 top pain points in this process for product managers, what would those be?
For a product manager, I would say it's different for every product manager because it depends on your background. I think if I had an engineering background, maybe this wouldn't be my biggest pain point, which is the sizing of each of the features and like the negotiation of what goes into the product. I'd say those are the top 2 for me. Like
even the question, should we even build it? Should we even build it or not? Or should we even, does this gonna be sticky for users? Are users gonna care or not?
I'd say that is where there's a line somewhere where there's the decision of whether or not you're going to actually build the thing that you've tested, you've researched, you've developed up to that point. There is a point where you have to decide whether or not this thing is going to launch. And I think that is sometimes paralyzing to different product managers. How you get over it is, I have also a philosophy of launching fast and iterating fast. So I'd much rather have it out there to get real user feedback on the real application and iterate on that rather than spending more and more time talking about whether or not this is going to work. If you already did all of the due diligence to find out, is there a product market fit? Is there a job that we're meeting this need? Are we solving a problem? If you've done all of that work, just launch it. Make a good product, launch it, get the feedback and iterate on it. I think launching fast is one of those things that is extremely scary to new product managers.
For sure. Anything else? Any other thoughts as you think of this as a critical element that provides sometimes what to build, how to build it, takes priorities and rearrange them. Sometimes the needed insight to manage internal quantification of opinions related to the market or the product. What do you think it's critical to success when entering the product discovery in light of that you have other cross functions that are not looking at the product the way you are?
So I think that in reality, it's best to be the most flexible you can. I think design thinking is only one process in order to get to a solution. There are many processes to get to a solution, and that has taken a lot of training or untraining by various different roles that I've had. The best thing to do is decide on a process and agree to that process and go forward. Like I said before, this lack of not committing and going forward is a huge failure point in the product process. I think if you can agree to a different process that works for the team, go with that, and you can always change it. So this is what I mean by flexibility. Always reflect on what just happened. I think retrospectives are extremely important, not only in tech, in any product process, is reflection on how did that go? What could we do better? What should we continue doing? And what should we stop doing? Right? And then the next iteration will be something that's a little bit different. Like, I think the design thinking process, it's starting with a human need. Like, I think that is the whole idea behind design thinking. But you could start with a technology in search of a solution. I think I was just reading about Post-its this morning. They were trying to build a stronger adhesive, and they had this Post-it thing, and that wasn't the right solution, but it's worth billions of dollars now. So, you can start from any of the three circles. The desirability is where design thinking starts. The technical feasibility is one, and then the business viability is one. As long as everything is moving towards the center of that Venn diagram circle, I feel like you're going to get the best possible solutions. And I know that's really hard because you're in a design thinking course, and you should definitely learn all of the philosophies in design thinking, and it does work and lead to great product outcomes, but it's also not the only way. And so being flexible will make it easier for you to get to that first win.
That's really awesome. And outside of the interview, which, by the way, thank you again. Cannot thank you enough for your insights always. If you have any body of work or readings related to that, because that's a really good insight. Like, how in this trifecta, in many ways, I actually build it in my own experience, from market and business, sometimes not dealing with the technical feasibility, and finding product market fit. So it resonates highly what you're saying. So if from your experience in design thinking, there may be other techniques or readings that you think will complement. Even if I'm doing this, please, as you think about it, please just shoot me out. Yeah. Because at the end, that's from my perspective, and is how do I bring whatever the best practices of all these methodologies into something that it could be congruent towards something that makes sense for the user, and it kind of adapts by itself and sells by itself. And lastly, you touch on a really important point. Until what point you stop with a swathe of data and information and put a line in the sand? Like I tell my guys, you got to put a line in the sand and make a decision, because there's always going to be more data requests, and data begets data, which people are going to ask for more. So that's why I see this particular space, the fuzzy front end, how to formalize the fuzzy front end.
Yep. I think I gave a talk about the idea that you can start from any of those avenues. I think the goal is always to you can start from one way, but as long as you go in both of those other directions very quickly, bring in people that have that perspective from those other directions to be your trifecta of it's like a stool. You will make a much stronger stool together.
Tiffany, thank you for the initial conversation, for connecting. An absolute pleasure. Very, very nice to meet you. And
nice to meet you
again. And still digging the camera. Love the camera. I know you mentioned the MacBook. I'm a Windows guy, so I have at some point I was gonna do all some YouTube stuff, so I got a loggy stream something. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this special episode of Cocoy AI. If you found it valuable, please share it with somebody. If you'd like to hear more, like and subscribe. And tell me your thoughts in the comments below. It means the world to me. I'm Tiffany. Until next time, bye.